Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the academic party and the Chancellor.
I declare that the 496th Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. I am Eileen Bush-Vishniak, Provost and Vice President Academic of McMaster University. This afternoon, I have the great pleasure of acting as your Master of Ceremonies and of welcoming you to Convocation. Before we start our formal program, may I first ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic device that may bing, ding, ping, ring, or sing. Thank you. Now I call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Linton Wilson, to make welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Provost, and good afternoon to you all. President and Vice Chancellor Dean, President McIsaac, Dean Wilkinson, our honorary graduate, members of the Platform Party, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this 496th convocation of McMaster University. To those graduating, you've reached an important milestone, an exciting milestone in your lives. Many of you will begin careers, embarking on new journeys. Some of you will be continuing your education, training, or preparation for more advanced or specialized activities. To the parents, grandparents, family members, spouses, and friends here today, you may bask in reflected glory and take pride in the accomplishments being recognized in this convocation. To our faculty and staff, today marks tangible recognition of your efforts, particularly the successes of your students evident in this ceremony. I wish you all an enjoyable afternoon.
I now introduce Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting our honorary degree recipient.
Mr. Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present Gary Purdy. Gary Purdy is a decorated engineer, a leading academic, and one of McMaster's most distinguished professors. Dr. Purdy received his bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Alberta before arriving at McMaster University to pursue his doctoral studies, earning his PhD in 1962. Joining the McMaster Faculty of Engineering in the Department of Metallurgy and Metallurgical Engineering, he began a professorial career that saw him serve in a number of key positions both within the faculty and at the university level. He chaired the department, served as Associate Dean of Graduate Studies, and as Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. His contributions to McMaster, to the Faculty of Engineering, to the university's learning culture, and to his field of study have been recognized on the McMaster campus with induction into the McMaster Alumni Gallery in 1998, with the Distinguished Alumni Award for Science in 2003, and with the honor of being named one of McMaster's few distinguished university professors. Dr. Purdy's research, which centers on the structure, properties, and processing of advanced engineering materials, continues to have implications in both industrial and scholarly settings. He has been recognized with awards that include a Diplôme de Docteur Honoris Causa from the Institut National Polytechnique de Grenoble and fellowship in the Royal Society of Canada. He is an honorary professor of the University of Science and Technology, Beijing, and he is a fellow of ASM International, the Materials Information Society, of CIM, the Canadian Institute of Mining, Metallurgy and Petroleum, and of TMS, the Minerals, Metals and Materials Society. Numerous industries and organizations have also lauded his contributions. He is one of only 9 Canadian members of the US National Academy of Engineering, and he has been awarded the Canadian Metal Physics Medal, the ArcelorMittal Dofasco Medal, and the Sawamura and Gomeris Medals of the Iron and Steel Institute of Japan. Upon his retirement in 2002, Dr. Purdy served a 3-year term as director of McMaster's Interdisciplinary Center for Peace Studies. He currently chairs the advisory committee for Volume 3 of the History of McMaster. He also maintains an interest in the work of the Center for Peace Studies while pursuing a number of research projects with students and colleagues. Mr. Chancellor, Dr. Gary Purdy is an internationally respected researcher, a skilled administrator, and a much beloved teacher. He is also a quintessentially McMaster man, someone of whom the entire McMaster family should be proud. I ask that you confer upon him today the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Gary Rush Purdy, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa, in McMaster University, with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Congratulations to you. Come and sign the book. It's now my great pleasure to invite Dr. Purdy to deliver the Convocation address. Dr. Purdy.
Thank you. President Dean, President McIsaac, Chancellor Wilson, Madam Provost, honored guests, colleagues, and above all, graduates. First of all, thank you. I'm delighted and honored to be standing here today and to share this good day with you, the graduands. I am equally honored to be sharing a series of spring convocation platforms with distinguished honorees, including Canada's 21st Prime Minister, Paul Martin, the Honourable Paul Martin, Dr. M.S. Swathamaran, the father of economic ecology, and that ultimate master of the engineering solution, Dr. Steve Smith, also known as Red Green, and other distinguished people. My congratulations to each of you, to your families, friends, parents, and significant others who celebrate this day with you. McMaster has meant much to me over the last half-century, and I trust it's also been a good place for you in your shorter stays here. This institution has been and continues to be a place of intellectual excellence, an academic powerhouse where knowledge is created and shared, an innovator in education, and for many it's been a place of close-knit community. You'll maintain those friendships over the years, I hope, for your sake. I'll take a minute now to acknowledge my family, and especially my wife Ruby, for constant understanding, support, friendship, and above all, love over the last half-century, because we're celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary now. Our children and their spouses are here, and the older grandchildren. It's just as well the younger ones are not. I think they're being held somewhere. But thank you all for being here today. It means a lot. I'm proud of each of you. I would also like to acknowledge the many students and colleagues who have enriched my experiences over the years, both here and around the world. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to work with so many good friends. I'm going to skip ahead. I now have a recently piqued interest in history and a long-standing enthusiasm for the study of the impact of technology on society and vice versa. I'd like to spend a few minutes exploring a mix of the two. I have this idea that each generation is entrusted with a slice of time, approximately 50 years in length. I don't know why I'm focusing on 50 years, but it seems right. Of course, these slices of time overlap. Some began in the 70s and 80s, for example, but I use the term slice to suggest that it really is not that long. My parents' slice of time was essentially the first half of the 20th century. My father was an 18-year-old Canadian infantryman in the First World War, responding to the call of duty, fighting for the British Empire, and attracted, I suppose, by the glory of battle. He experienced the hell of Vimy Ridge, the horror of Passchendaele, and survived, thankfully, only to witness the Second World War, and the beginning of the Cold War, and the corollary of deterrence through MAD, which stands for Mutually Assured Destruction. My mother and father were both teachers. My mother experienced universal suffrage because the right to vote in federal elections was only extended to women in 1919. And she, as a teacher, was required to resign when she married, just because she was married. My parents endured the Great Depression, witnessed the post-war growth of suburbs, the parallel development of the automobile, and the beginnings in neighboring Saskatchewan of universal Medicare. We lived in Edmonton and witnessed the discovery of oil in nearby Leduc. All this led to the transformation of Alberta into a have province. Now, my slice of time, and that of my contemporaries, would be roughly the second half of the 20th century. In 1950, I was a high school student with a rapidly growing interest in machines of all kinds, math, physics, geology, and oddly, music and politics. I had not heard of and did not anticipate any of the following developments: space exploration, computers, the internet, jet airliners, cellular phones, joint replacement surgery, for which I'm thankful, DNA, climate change, communication satellites, genomics, social networking, and the list just keeps going on. As this suggests, the pace of science and technology accelerated exponentially in the 1950s, and I and my contemporaries witnessed it all. We were by no means disinterested observers, but to a greater or lesser extent, we were participants in the acceptance or advancement of technology. Technology played a dominant role in most of these examples. Very often it's the intersection of technology with society that makes each subject memorable, for good or ill. One can ask the question, what's next? I know it's hard to predict the future, so let's proceed. Many of you graduates will have your own half-century careers ahead of you, perhaps more. What can you look forward to? First, let's ask what my generation has left you with. Where are we good custodians of our slice of time? Think about it. We had a fantastic rate of progress in technical fields I just mentioned. But humanity was responsible, consciously or not, for vastly increasing the carbon loading in the atmosphere, for messing with the nitrogen cycle, for the building of short-lived infrastructure and structures that quickly need remediation or replacement, and for the threatening of seemingly infinite water resources, and most of all, for the human and environmental aftermaths, the costs of several wars. Earth scientists now have a new term for our age. It's called the Anthropocene. Humankind has so clearly influenced the planet that we've entered a new geological age. So, of course, in detail, I have no idea what comes next, but it seems clear that engineering will see a greater emphasis on social awareness and responsibility. The boundaries between science and engineering, medicine, the humanities, and social sciences will be further blurred as the disciples inform one another. Technology will have an increasingly profound interaction with humanity, with potential consequences for societal benefit or damage control. Among other things, you will have to carry the load of previous generations' actions. Let me touch on a couple of trends in current engineering that promise to change the ways we do things and to accommodate at least some of the stresses that will face the world. Consider the brilliant advances in water treatment and water resources. Think of intelligent structures with wireless networks of solar-powered sensors. Think of 3D printing manufacturing technology. Think of the developments in information communication ecosystems, to name only a few. All of these are the results of interactions of traditional and non-traditional disciplines. All pale in comparison with advances in bioengineering originating from fundamental stem cell and genomic studies and promising to change our lives profoundly. There's more. Sustainability is now a byword of engineering as the drive for greener, economically viable solutions expands. We could have touched on many other current or potential developments for medical applications, manufacturing, advanced materials, information engineering, each involving the integration of several disciplines, each displaying daunting complexity and the need for multivariate optimization, and each representing a challenge to the imagination and sometimes to the moral compass. What can you, the graduates of 2011, expect as you receive stewardship of a slice of time? First, change. That's so obvious it hardly needs stating. Second, complexity. One-dimensional problems have always been rare. They're now essentially non-existent. Third, multidisciplinarity. This is a close relative of complexity. It's increasingly likely that each of you will find the need to consult and collaborate with others as you pursue your own disciplines. In this age of instant communications and dense information, it may be useful to hear the words of T.S. Eliot, a poet writing in the mid-20th century. He said, "Where is the life we've lost in the living? Where is the wisdom we've lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we've lost in information?" These questions resonate today. You graduates can look forward to an absolutely fascinating, complex, and unpredictable future. You will be stewards of the 21st century, and I suggest, in response to Eliot's questions, you should respect information, but distill it to gain knowledge. You should respect knowledge, but place your highest value on wisdom. Try to discern it, trust it, be guided by it, pursue justice, seek peace, and take good care of your slice of history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Purdy. I wish I were starting out again with all of those problems and opportunities that you've laid out, and I hope the graduates here today who will become graduates soon and responsible for taking their slice of history will take note of the challenges that you've raised. Thank you for your wise words.
We now enter that part of the convocation ceremony for which I suspect a good many of you have been waiting some number of years, the conferral of degrees. I invite Dr. Patrick Dean to come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Graduands, will you please stand? A healthy number of you. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees and diplomas upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable.
Graduands, by my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit you to your individual degrees in McMaster University with all of the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees. My sincere congratulations to you all. Please be seated.
Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, may I also request that you confer the appropriate degrees in absentia upon all those candidates who have successfully completed the required course of study but who are not present.
I declare all these degrees conferred in absentia.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you into the McMaster community of scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of the graduates you would hold your applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Philosophy. Baron Amuzgar, Andrea Kelly Weeks, Mukesh Kumar Mayani, Laura Ann Wells, Kian Karimi, Christopher George McLaughlin, Daniel George Danu. Munir Mahmood Abraham Eldasuki.
Jenwee Mu. Ming-Kei Shao. Dong Yang. Dmitro Grabinikov. Parsian Katal Moseni. Qinyang Zhu. Avery Yuen. Erica Michelle Bellhouse. Akihide Hosokawa. Kiping Bian. Amin Mali. Ramath Zarina Abdul Ghani. Abbas Abdul Amer Khalaf. Mohammed Tawheed Uz Zaman. Vera Pantelic. J. Brian Parlar. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Science. Joshua Ivan Moore Oliva. That's it. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Applied Science. Lamiz Naef. Yanan Kao. David Girardi. Eric Roger. Wei Xiao Sun. Kaiga Prastham Harisyan. Xiaofan He. Herath Kumar Kathravalu. Shabnam Kazamulu. Donna Lynn Kacheri. Wenjian Liu. James Maka Nanama. Anjong Wang. Yong Zhao. Michael Edward Jaba. Ryan Ahmed. Waji Hamuda. Mad Kamrul Islam Russell. Salman Safari Mohsinbad. Parsa Tamadonfar. Asif Iqbal. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Engineering. Wei Hang Dong. Ehsan Fard. Christopher Gaspar Ban. Amro Abuzid Noor. Ala Aldin Abu Jarad. Salam Sami Al-Jabouri. Fadi Azmi. Lu Han. Jonathan Andrew Hernandez. Mario Ibrahim. Anton Nigavko. Kiwa Lee. Ji Liu. Hafsa Mushtaq. Vinod Venkata Narayan. Mohammed Najmuddin Qadri. Shrujan Shah. Saf Sheikh. Rajid Sithiraval. Karam Mahmood Saeed. Harpriya Virdi. Jinwan Wang. Fang Zhao. Li Zhao. Peter Stewart. Muhammad Ali. Lucas Evans Bayak. Ronan Ben Shmo Olo. Michael Hirsch. Shanthini Jaranathan. Shehab Ghulam Mustafa. Rayhan Noor. Arul Jathi Suntharam Pili. Vuk Zernich. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Engineering, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation. Suleiman Al-Nasa. Mazen Bartafi. Raid Batarafi. Salman K. Bawa. Al-Qadir Dalla. Salman Hemani. Zain Cyrus Karas. Kenneth Matthew Law. Jagannathan Narasimhan. Peter Limbet Nilander. Justin Policarpio. Ahmad Saif. Pradeep Soundarajan. Ki Long Wang. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Engineering in Public Policy. Nate Ram Vincent Gagaram. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Engineering Design. Hussein Mahmoud Al-Sarafi. Ricky Chung Ki Chan. Mina Khalil. Farhan Mohammed Khan. Wasib Shahab Mohammed. Zia Mohammed. Mark Anthony Presti.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Engineering and Management. Walid Abdu. Andreas Abrahams. Justin Allaire. Jordan Anderson. Kava Arfei. Nathan Biederman. Natasha Baumeister. Trevor John Caldwell. Katie Campagnolo. Leslie Cantar. Allison Clark. Mikhail Jamal Deriggs. Ashkan Dagan. Neil DePass. Amar El Kalash. Arash Farakkish. James Frank. Mark Fraser. Mark Gabriel. Andrew Gabor. Deepak Gidwani. Alexander William Goodlett. Varun Goyal. Bradley Gregus. Mark Heyman. Shan Huo. Youngjun Huang. Brandon Anthony James Karchewski. Zenon Anthony Thomas Kazienko. Japneet Kahal. Fahad Ahmed Khan. Faisal Khan. Mohammad Arij Ali Khan. Adam Kuhn. Brick Kung. Siu Ji Kung Lim. Mark William John Lafrata. Joshua David Lane. Morgan Elizabeth Richardson Lawrence. Catherine Helen Maria Lawton. Joel Kenneth Lindy. Danusha Lokliana Waduj. Joyce Shell Jane Ma. Matthew Manella. Ryan Ladislas Mascarenas. Mark Mihaljevich. Eric Montero. Daniel Moore. Benjamin Joshua Edwards Mutton. Rami Nastasi. Jacob Neese. Stephen Ing Hang. Keith James Oxby. Piyush Patel. Stephen Petrashuk. Bradley James Pollard. Michael Priesta-Eski. Prabjot Randhawa. Jeffrey Allen Ricard. Gregory Dale Schneider. J. Graham Seguis. Aikem Sadi. Vincent Stranges. John William Stribble. Gregory Sullivan. Scott Swiger. Russell Truesdell. Allison Tyndall. Fina Utami. Daniel Vlad Vukar. Neil Van Engelen. Kiran Varagur. Ryan Benjamin Verschure. Lindsay Christine Walker. Jeremy Wad. Joshua Wellstood. Mark Weymacamp. Brendan Anthony Wood. Heather Yates. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Engineering and Society. Kristen Michelle Adams. Ori Bernstein. Nicholas Bray. Andrew Cruikshank. Peter DeWitt. James Harrington. Jacqueline April Howe. Stephen James Little. Michael McQuaid. Adrian Matani. Tim Ing. Alicia Polowski. Karen Fong. Shannon M. Pohl. Evan Polito. Amalia Ray McIntyre. Monica Shuda. Cornell Suarez. Michael Ralph Supa. Daniel Voisin. Matt Wright. Ding Bang Yang. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the graduates of the degree Bachelor of Engineering and Biosciences. Robert Terence Buchner. Andrea Cosgrove. Marta Dabrowski. Niccolo Floresco. Alicia Yelema. Kevin Ho Ming Kan. Nafisa Kanji. Joy Amanda Liebert. Chak Man Lee. Ryan Andrew McBride. Joanna Lee Souter. Evan Stevens. Charlene Weatherly. Elizabeth Antonietta Wells. Stuart Young. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Engineering. Tala Abbas. Hatem Abdu. Omar Abu El-Abbas. Khaled Ali Abu Elanain. Farah Abu Tuk. Walid Abu Nasif. Muhammad Abu Jared. Alex Achinfiev. Joel Ademo. Akintunda Adewoya. Zishan Ahmed. Simon On. Sandra Aldebag. Adil Alam. Mohammed Firdos Alam. Keisha Alcott. Sabin Alexander. Hussein Alalal. Bedad Amir Barami. Akshay Anand. Arthur James Antonacci. Nuraslinda Anwar. Mohammed Rayan Arif. Hardiljot Singh Arora. Adam Atkinson. Damian Bailey. Antonio Baldovino. Gurdeep Bansal. Riazad Bari. Erica Barnes. Alexander Reed Barry. Sami Moe Bayat. Andrew William Bell. Umar Sani Bello. Kevin Bejak. Joseph Bielo Brzeski. Justin Besessar. Nathan Bissell. Sean Blanchard. Frizana Bora. Ruzuel Boparai. Massa Boramand. Michael Boziowski. Kyle Gustav Bostelman. Huntley Brown. Jordan Bruckner. Harrison Milne Bai. Jennifer Kent. Alexander Kwan Ho Chen. Samantha Wing Hei Chen. Wing Hang Catherine Chen. Nirosham Chandrasegaram. Christopher Cheng. Maggie Chin Wu Chen. Johnson Chung Lung Chung. Priya Joanna Ching. Bradley William Chong. Gary Chung. Jeffrey William Coletti. Joel Cooper. Brandon Corbett. Jason Costabile. Joshua Robert Samuel Cox. Nathan Cox. Bradley Crum. Alexander Michael Lord Cushing. Ricardo Andres D'Angelo. J. Anthony Dye. Kyle Daly. Brian Denard. Bainam Dastiar. Robert Alexander Lyon Davies. Shranuj Deve. Thomas Dawkins. Winston de Armas. Megan Christian de Ruyter. Xiong Deng. Harmandeep Dhaliwal. Diksha Dal. Paige Dickey. Rebecca Dreeser. Marc-Andre Victor Drouin. Lucas Duncan. Ryan Dinney. Eric Edwards. Kareem El Sadi. Alia Imam. Abram Everett. Mattis Faro. Brendan Farquhar. Jacob Fink. Andrea Finlayson. Jennifer Fisher. Kyla Fisher. Andrew Christopher Flagg. Kevin Richard Foltz. Adam Thomas Frederick Franick. Colin Kiyoshi Fraser. Marshall Fulford. Christine Gabardo. Derek Kenneth Galbraith. Hime Galdamez. John James Gardhouse. Kevin Michael Garvey. Benjamin Joseph Garrity. Yasser Gobara. Bianca Giacomel. Victor Jinan. Evan Penner Glennie. Ariam Gomez. Justin Kevin Gray. Michael Radford Grummett. Luke Andre Guertin. Karan Gupta. Udit Gupta. Thomas Oliver Gwadge. Ayman Hamouda. Nijad Hamza. Jason Harrison. Calder Miles Hayes. Kyle Haywood. Shane Hill. Leith Hussein. Eric David Hoff. Jennifer Howard. Zachary Howard. Peng Hu. Wada Hu. Tai Young Huang. Christopher Hyde. William Eichson. Neil Jeffrey Lauren Eisenegger. Stefania Jablonski. Anita Jagdeo. Abdul Ahad Javed. Nicholas Jelonkovich. Yunyang Zhao. Timothy Johnston. Matthew James Jones. Yon Jung. Jeffrey Caden. Jasdeep Singh Kalon. Badnan Kaki. Srikumar Kandasamy. Narusha Kankasan. James Murray Kay. Vicky Kamar. Shahir Mohammed Khan. Jay Kim. Harrison King McBain. Stephen Kineo. Daniel Arthur Kinzel. Matthew Kirby. Nathaniel Jordan Kirk. Alex Christian Kivy. Moreg Kluza. Simon Kokoza. Ben Anderson Kabartas. Punit Lad. Xing Fung Lam. Daniel Lampman. Hasnain Lanawala. Stephanie Elaine Langton. Daniel Thang Lee. Nicholas Lerentfeld. Gina Leota. Runshu Lee. Zishuo Li. Jacqueline Sue Lim. Sheng Li Lin. Bing Liu. Dalibor Lubenkovic. Luciano Francesco Longo. Bruno Lopez.
Yiran Liu. Tracy Lyle. Caitlin Lynch. Thomas Floyd McDougall. Ram Maganti. Tahere Madji. Amran Majid. Nathaniel Mancarius. Jordan Carl Thomas Mansfield. Craig Gerard Marantet. Bianca Jo Marigoman. Brent Sant Brian Maxwell. Kevin Douglas McKay. Matthews Medeiros. Manan Mehta. Lorenzo Melfi. Benjamin Alexander Miller. Navid Mirza. Matan Mokhtar. Tony Munavong. Jordan Leonard Scott Moyse. Nur Nasri Muhammad Naim. Tahir Naim. Thomas Allen Neal. Brian Newell. Trong Dong Nguyen. Salman Khalid Khan Niazi. Chen Hui Nui. Amar Nomani. Chica Antoinette Ofili. Dixon Javier Paez Capacho. Scott Palmer. Michael Anthony Panetta. Harvard Pang. Primal Parekh. Hannah Park. Sung Ho Park. Chanel Paris. Parthek Reddy Piredi. Ryan Enrico Pereira. Anand Persad. Elizabeth Petch. Robert Petrina. Cody Andrew Pettit. Soparth Poe. Alexander Joseph Pfeiffer. Kelvin Poon. Jeru Puthuparumpil. Taimur Qasim. Catherine Alexandra Kwan. Hector Mario Quintero. Jagpal Rai. Sharanya Rajaratnam. Janan Rajivikaran. Devendra Ramphal. Curtis Ramsey. Sanan Rashid. Jawad Rehan. Mehran Matab Reza. Cody Robinson. Hayden Ross. Mohammed Saleh. Mehanaz Shafakat Santarampulwa. Robert Mario Sardaliti. Joshua Scarf. Benjamin Shermill. Elizabeth Scott. Michael Scriven. Shirag Shah. Vineet Sharma. Marla Shaver. Saif Sheet. Wanjat Shirazi. Chi Shi. David Nicholas Shutuk. Gregory Michael Simon. Kevin David Simmons. Rashid Siraj. Mondisi Sitoli. Justin Sma. Omar Smiley. Babak Sobani. Abhinav Soni. Nicholas Sordo. Paul Andrew Sparks. Peter Alexander Silberjanin. Ishwaraya Sirnath. James Stam. Brian Stern. Nick Sullivan. Prem Kumar Suresh Kumar. Jonathan Suraya Kumar. Mohammed Nabil Sayed. Daniel Mark Simchak. Owen Andrew Conover Taggart. Billy Taj. Joseph Tallis. Christina Tan. Ji Yang Tan. Farbod Tidaner. Karan Tejpal. Lakesh Thakur. Maiku Thompson. Jiahang Tong. Aaron Joseph Toth. Kevin Tran. Sam Tran. Brian Treu. Joseph Trudell. Jun Wan Learn. Jamie Turner. Usman Upal. Stephen Conrad van Beren. Gajanija Vijayanitharan. Martin Villegas. Dina Wiesmuller. Joseph Voisin. Greg Voloshenko. Liam John Sullivan Walker. Sarah Jessica Brash Waller. Gujin Wang. Shuzhang Wang. Muhammad Wagas. Alex Sao Ming Wong. Danny Kwok Luang Wong Lopez. Martin Woperis. Dana Wright. Phoebe Zhu. Sin Hao Zhu. Hodi Yang. Peng Yang. Janine Yaramich. Laura Ann Young. Sarah Lorraine Young. Wagas Yunus. Fadi Yuris. Caroline Youssef. Peiyan Yu. Kyle Joseph Yusek. Jia Jun Zhang. Binfei Zhao. Lin Zhong. Marvin Kevin Joseph Zuzark. Michael Zvulun.
Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Applied Science. Martin Pablo Camisa. Alexander Chen. Cam Lau. Omar Masood. Peter Rodney Santos. Mr. Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Technology. Scott Blake. Alexander Kurt Brown. Richard Todd Buchanan. Avindra Nauth Chetty. Yu Chen. Jordan Matthew Church. Marcus Churcher. Matthew Colby. Akanksha Das. Jason Dreyer. Kyle Rodney Nelson Eastwood. Kunwardeep Gill. Gajendra Hangalur. Ahmed Ibrahim. Natasha Iyer. Kyle Peter Jimink. Matthew Machado.
Jimmy Malhotra. Stephen John Melnick. Faisal Mamdou Musa. Frederick Nelson. Richard Newsom. Yu Ing. Min To Pham. Alexei Shumkin. Cody Snyder. Elton Timodu. Blair Varga. Stephen Veerman. Jason White.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce you to Ms. Erica Barnes, a graduate of the Bachelor of Engineering program, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President, Madame Provost, faculty, honored guests, and fellow students. It is an honor to stand before you as valedictorian for the McMaster Engineering class of 2011. It seems like yesterday that we were nervous first-year engineering students wondering if we had what it takes to get to today, or if we'd be that person to the left or to the right of us who wouldn't quite make it to second year. But here we are, sitting before an audience of faculty, staff, and some teary-eyed parents ready to receive our degrees. That final piece of paper that confirms that we did it. As new graduates, we are faced with an amazing challenge, a challenge that Nelson Mandela put so well when he said, "Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And the world needs us. It needs our knowledge, our skills, and our abilities to recognize and solve engineering and societal problems." At McMaster, we have not only mastered the engineering curriculum, but we have learned to work effectively, both individually and in teams, to achieve shared goals. The rich McMaster environment has provided opportunities to grow as engineering students, to build lasting friendships, and to develop the leadership skills that ensure that McMaster engineers excel. Today's engineer, including us, the McMaster class of 2011, has both the opportunity and the responsibility to influence the profession of engineering for the better. We bring knowledge of global needs for a successful future, and we understand how interconnected our world really is. Whether we consider climate change, global business, an emerging Africa, or natural disasters, we understand the impact of human actions on the world. By looking at engineering problems through a broader lens of environmental, social, economic, and technological realities and perspectives, we can serve the world and shape a better future for everyone. As a class, I am confident that we can and we will embrace and realize the potential of the global engineer. I believe we should each think deeply about our personal role as an engineer in society. I encourage you to record these thoughts and aspirations as you begin your career. Then, as life in a fast-paced work environment places its many demands, you can return to your vision, check to see your progress, and ensure that you are living up to your own expectations. As E. Cummings said, it takes courage to grow up and become who we really are. As individuals and as a profession, we will need that courage to achieve our dreams and aspirations. It's incredible to look out at you, my classmates, and recognize the many who have already taken on strong leadership roles within the faculty and the university. These experiences have enriched us personally, developed our knowledge and skills, and prepared us to take on future leadership roles. For some, it was the opportunity to participate and provide leadership to the McMaster Engineering Society, Red Suits, our student union, Engineers Without Borders, or our faculty and the university's numerous teams and clubs. Often, we have learned just as much from these experiences as we have from our own academic coursework. Through my involvement with Engineers Without Borders, I have experienced this firsthand. The opportunity to volunteer with a local water and sanitation NGO in Malawi, Africa, and to serve as the McMaster EWB chapter president provided some of the most important and rewarding learning and personal growth experiences of my life. Because of these experiences, I feel I am graduating with a better understanding of my role in society and a commitment to use my skills to the benefit of others. I've also been fortunate to have many positive experiences working on issues that affect the university and the Faculty of Engineering. In particular, I value the insights I have gained and the opportunity to contribute to the faculty's strategic plan. Our graduating class could not have succeeded without the help of the faculty and the university. On behalf of our class, I'd like to recognize and thank our professors for encouraging and supporting us to step outside the core curriculum, to find our passion, and develop the attitudes and skills that allow us to be the best engineers we can be. We have greatly benefited from a faculty that really cares about undergraduates and makes that extra effort to ensure student success. The university as a whole has created a welcoming and supportive academic community in which we have thrived and excelled. We are better for having lived the McMaster experience, and we'd like to think that because of our contributions, McMaster is just a little bit better. Just as important to our success was the support and guidance we received from significant others in our lives. Whether it was parents, guardians, grandparents, siblings, a significant other, or other important mentors or friends, you believed in us even on the days we were not so sure we believed in ourselves. Whether we needed a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, a cheering section, a little care package, some cash, a delicious home-cooked meal, or a push, you made it happen. We are graduating today in no small measure because of you. We send our love and a huge thank you for being there. Finally, congratulations to my fellow classmates and the graduates of the McMaster Engineering class of 2011. And thank you all for coming to celebrate with us today. We leave proud graduates and committed alumni of McMaster University, graduates with the confidence that we have what it takes to really make a difference. Thank you.
Now I call upon our president, Dr. Patrick Dean, who will present the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership and the President's Award of Excellence in Instruction.
Would Erica Barnes come forward again, please? An exceptional student in McMaster's Civil Engineering program, Erica Barnes has been recognized both for her outstanding work in the classroom and for her remarkable extracurricular achievements, which have seen her travel across the globe and raise the profile of McMaster's Engineers Without Borders chapter to national prominence. Erica originally became involved with the Engineers Without Borders McMaster chapter in 2008, when she worked with the club as an overseas junior fellow and helped improve water and sanitation stations in Malawi, Africa. When she became the chapter's president in 2009, she began making an extraordinary impact on the organization itself, guiding it through a number of initiatives such as a visioning and a restructuring exercise, and increased involvement in the work of the Faculty of Engineering through the Student and Professional Affairs Committee, the McMaster Engineering Competition, and the faculty's strategic plan for internationalization and the global engineer. Under her leadership, McMaster EWB was named Chapter of the Year at the National Organization's 2011 conference. Erica has also served as the chapter's director of the Global Engineering Initiative, helping connect McMaster students to the chapter's strategy and work. In addition to serving as a teaching assistant, a member of the Faculty of Engineering Sustainability Task Force, and an executive member of the McMaster Civil Engineering Council, Erica's outstanding work has been recognized with the Image of an Engineer Award, the Albert Lager Student Initiative Award, and the McMaster Inspiration Scholarship for Women in Engineering. Please join me in congratulating Erica Barnes. Erica, congratulations. What a wonderful career. Would Carlos Felipe come forward, please? Hey, Carlos. Carlos Felipe has an extraordinary enthusiasm and deep interest in each individual student and their learning successes. While his students recognize his ability to make his chemical engineering classes dynamic, captivating, and fun, they ultimately appreciate the unparalleled connection that he forms with his students and his continual commitment to his students' pursuit of learning. As an associate professor and associate chair undergraduate in chemical engineering, Carlos recognizes the importance of thorough preparation, hard work, clarity of presentation, setting high standards, and getting to know each student. He implements a different strategy for each of the 6 undergraduate courses he teaches, according to the nature of the materials and to where the students stand in relation to them. Using these techniques, Carlos has made an impression on the students who take his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year bioengineering, environmental engineering, thermodynamics, engineering economics, chemical plant design, and simulation courses. His students suggest that what really sets him apart from other instructors is this deep interest in each individual student. He's described by his students as a devoted mentor, a passionate teacher, and a dedicated supervisor. His colleagues hold him in very high esteem. 3M teaching fellow Dr. Don Wood says that, quote, Carlos is an outstanding instructor, a fantastic credit to McMaster, who shows exceptional enthusiasm. My only regret is that I did not have Dr. Felipe as one of my teachers. Previous President's Award winner Dr. Tom Marlin describes how pleased he is to have, quote, such a talented and enthusiastic teacher who cares so much about our students in the department, end of quote. And Chair of Chemical Engineering Dr. Shiping Zhu says that Carlos, quote, is an exceptional instructor and mentor to our students. He's one of our most gifted and passionate teachers. Carlos demonstrates consistently ongoing excellence in instruction in parallel with a strong research performance that provides the constantly changing knowledge base from which he creates curricula and enriches his teaching. His passion and commitment to teaching and to his students are noble and laudatory, making Carlos Felipe a commendable recipient of a 2011 President's Award for Instruction. Carlos, congratulations. Outstanding. Great praise back from your colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to now invite David Wilkinson, Dean of Engineering, to the lectern. Dean Wilkinson will be presenting the Governor General's Academic Medal and Faculty Medals.
Mr. Chancellor, McMaster University has been granted 2 academic silver medals by the Governor General. This medal is awarded annually to the undergraduate student graduating with the highest academic standing. This year, Mark Mihalcevic is one of the 2 recipients of the Governor General's Academic Silver Medal. I ask that you and all those present join with me to express recognition of his achievement. It is also my pleasure today to announce the following awards. The Gerald L. Keach Medal will be presented to Mr. Cam Lau.
Congratulations, Cam. Thank you. Good luck to you.
The McMaster Association of Part-Time Students Gold Medal will be presented to Gajendra Hangalar.
Congratulations. Good luck to you.
We began today's ceremony with an exceedingly large number of graduates here in this hall. The degrees have been conferred, and you are now graduates and McMaster alumni. It is my pleasure to introduce Karen McQuigg, who will deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Wilson, President Dean, President McIsaac, faculty, fellow alumni, honored guests, and members of the McMaster class of 2011. As director of the alumni program at McMaster, and on behalf of Bill McLean, our Alumni Association president, I have the privilege today of representing the Mac alumni family, a family that will have grown by over 5,000 this spring. The 147,000 members of the McMaster Alumni Association are an unconventional family. We don't expect invitations to your birthday, and usually we won't ask you to help us move furniture, except in your case, because you're engineers. We are united by common experiences and shared McMaster pride. We are proud when Ivan Reitman, class of 1969, is nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. When Julie Angus, class of 1997, becomes the first woman to row across the Atlantic Ocean, or when Stephen Elop, engineering class of 1986, becomes CEO of Nokia. And most importantly, your fellow alumni take pride in you. In 2009, your Alumni Association surveyed Mac grads and found that pride in our alma mater and our fellow alumni is exceptionally high. The reasons for that pride are numerous and as individual as our graduates. If you do need some external validation, though, just remember McMaster is one of only 4 universities in Canada that is ranked within the top 100 universities in the world. So go ahead and brag about earning your degree at Mac. You are well justified in doing so. I encourage you to exercise that pride by staying connected to McMaster and Mohawk. Read your alumni magazine, follow the associations on email, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. Become a mentor, participate in an event, Take advantage of the preferred rates offered to alumni through our Alumni Affinity programs. Become a donor or a volunteer. And perhaps one day you will be in the same seat as our wonderful Chancellor, Dr. Wilson, a graduate of the class of 1962 who has continued his active association with McMaster for almost 50 years since his graduation. There is a place for all of you in our alumni associations. You may be an occasional event participant or leadership volunteer, but as you take your post-secondary experiences into the years and decades ahead, remember that you are all ambassadors and advocates of your alma mater. Your achievements are the best advertisement for the value of a McMaster degree. Today, we celebrate your successes as students and toast the promise of your bright future as alumni. We offer you our most sincere congratulations and a warm welcome to our alumni family. Thank you.
And now I invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver the President's address.
Mr. Chancellor, Madam Provost, Dr. Purdy, Dr. McIsaac, Dean Wilkinson, distinguished faculty, graduating students, ladies and gentlemen. I should start by saying how delighted I was at the theme Dr. Purdy took for his talk earlier today. And as you will see, it would appear we've been drinking the same water, because as my comments progress, you will see that we're very concerned with the same issue. But first, some preliminary comments. Within the walls of this auditorium today, graduates, you are both in and out of time. The medieval rituals which we've all been engaged in bring home that message. For now, for these several hours, your past is concluded, and your future is not yet demanding attention. So it's possible to bask in the pleasure of your achievement, in the fellowship of your classmates and friends, and in the adoration and almost certain relief of your parents and family. My warmest congratulations to you for all you have done. Convocation, as you heard from Karen, is a gathering of the university family. And with this ceremony today, we welcome you permanently into membership of that family. In which respect, it'll occur to you perhaps that this event is not unlike a wedding. But you can extend that a little further. In case you hadn't noticed, since the time of your arrival at the university, you've only been engaged to us. The results of your exams would determine whether the marriage was going to become a reality. It has now. So today we have tied the knot which binds you to McMaster forever, if that is not a frightening thought. Forever. You notice I find myself again looking into the future, so much for being in and out of time. The future awaits, and you must go from here and meet it. Or perhaps it would be better to say that for each of you, there is a future that awaits, and it is for you to go forth and to make it. That rewording is important, because my theme today is not that your future is predetermined, but rather that when you leave this hall, you will each be agents in history, relatively free, with the power to shape both your own destiny and the destiny of your communities, your nation, and our planet. Erica issued you this challenge in her valedictorian speech, citing Nelson Mandela. If you're able to find within yourselves the will to do that, to make a difference, and I expect you shall do so in one way or another, the real question then to be answered is how? Not an engineering question, not by what practical means, but in what spirit will you approach the world? I could push this wedding analogy a little further because, as you know, usually in wedding services of one sort or another, those entering into the relationship are told in what spirit they should do so. You're told not to enter into marriage unadvisedly, lightly, or wantonly, but reverently, discreetly, soberly. Not necessarily virtues for engineers going out into the world. But the graduates of this fine university, in taking up their agency in the world, do have responsibilities that must be discharged. With the privilege of higher education, and in particular a McMaster education, comes the expectation that your future actions will redound to the benefit of those less privileged, of humanity at large, and through all of that, to the credit of your alma mater. The future which you make for yourselves, you make for all of us. So in what spirit should you approach that future? I know that on occasions such as this, people are often given to hyperbole. A parallel occasion would be something like the Oscars, in which you've all heard the speech. I just want everyone to know that if you just want something hard enough, and if you work at it hard enough, you will succeed. Christina Aguilera at the Grammys has given that speech. It usually ends saying, well, look at me, I'm here. But there's a version of that same speech that's often given at Convocation, and I would certainly applaud such a positive message. It is certainly true that in some cases, sheer disciplined determination does bring success, but certainly not always. So today I want to remind you of a virtue to which you are all committed through the Kipling Ceremony for Engineers, through the acceptance of the iron ring. And I know in the ritual by which that ring is conferred in Canada, an exchange occurs between a senior engineer and a student representing all of you. The senior engineer asks, "What do you know of our profession?" And the student replies, "Nothing, except that we know nothing." And the senior engineer replies that that is the extent of our knowledge and that is a good foundation for proceeding. I think that is a most profound realization, the limitations of one's own knowledge, even at this point as you graduate. It doesn't always reverberate very well, and although many of you have been part of that process, I hope that in time it's something that will come to hold a very important part of your attitude to the world. To give you an example of why I think this is important, I was recently in Beijing to attend a World Summit of University Presidents, part of which was a special session focusing on the issue of the universities and social responsibility. On show there were, as you can imagine, many different understandings of what you might mean by the phrase social responsibility. There was one intervention in particular that has stayed with me since my return. And this came from Dr. Junichi Hamada, who is the president of Tokyo University, who indicated that in the days since the earthquake and tsunami devastated the northeastern part of his country, Japanese society has markedly lost confidence in science and technology. And in consequence, a gap has opened up between the universities and the public at large, where once the two were joined in a relationship of optimism, confidence, and high aspirations, there is now skepticism and doubt. Now, in part, this news was easy to understand and not surprising. The failure of engineers and scientists successfully to contain the crisis at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was bound to provoke a collapse of confidence of one sort or another. And as the days have turned into weeks, and prior assurances about the safety of people living in close proximity to the plant have been shown to be unfounded, cynicism has proliferated. But still I found myself wondering why the fact of the earthquake and the tsunami themselves should affect public confidence in science and technology. After all, while it is true that scientists may be able on rare occasions to predict natural disasters, and quite commonly to advise on preparing for them, it remains the case that science can no more prevent natural disasters occurring than Canute, the Danish King of England, could successfully command the tide to halt and not wet his feet in robes. I wonder how many of you know that story. It's a very famous story of a king who had his throne placed on the beach, and as the story goes, in an assertion of his own power, he ordered the tide to recede when it was in fact coming in, the result of which was that he got his feet wet. It's a story that is frequently misunderstood, though. I just gave you the modern version of it, in which Canute is cited as an example of early Western megalomania. Apparently what we know, namely that the seas, the heavens, natural forces will listen to no man, he didn't know, perhaps because he was drunk on power or deluded by religious superstition. That is the popular version. But if you read the one extant contemporary account in the work of a 12th century chronicler, the story is very different. What we discover there is that the point of what Canute did when he sat on the beach was to remind his courtiers and clerics of nothing less than the limitations of human knowledge and human power. Once his feet are wet and he has made his point, he takes off and hangs up his crown in a symbolic gesture that indicates that he has no dominion over certain parts of reality. The moral of this story, told 800 years ago, is that there are very significant limitations to the human ability to achieve, and that in some contexts our desires and aspirations, as well as our technology, can be irrelevant. At the conference in Beijing, I wondered whether the public disillusionment of which Dr. Hamada spoke was not in some way connected to, or perhaps nurtured by, the extravagance with which universities themselves occasionally frame their aspirations, making claims to an unrealistic level of influence and effectiveness. After all, what happened to Canute on the beach was natural and expected. It could happen to any of us. It would happen to any of us. And the only way in which it could have been cause for humiliation or embarrassment would be if he had previously asserted that he could make the sea concede to his will. I'm not suggesting that science in Japan, or anywhere else for that matter, is subject to the level of self-delusion embodied in the popular conception of Canute. But I am wanting to sound a warning to you to remember the gist of that exchange over the iron ring, and to warn you to reject the false certainties and spurious confidence in progress, which is one of the defining attributes of our time. I noticed that Dr. Hamada's recently posted on the web a very fine essay on his university and its public responsibility. There he makes claims with which I would certainly agree. He notes that the university is expected to sketch an outline of a new form of society and to mark out the path to reach that goal. A proper ambition. If you were to read the essay, you would notice that it is expressed in terms that are appropriately modest in a post-Fukushima context. There are no grand claims for the ability of science to conquer all challenges. But it has to be noted, nevertheless, that Dr. Hamada expresses the aspirations of the Academy through a linear metaphor. He says that we're on a path. A path must lead somewhere. And the presumption we're invited to make is that where it leads will in some sense be better than where we are at present. That kind of thinking used to be called evolutionary meliorism, because it assumed that we're always in the process of becoming better than we were, of being more powerful, more insightful, more in command of nature and its intractable forces. And here I remind you of Dr. Purdy's points about that 50-year span over which any generation has an influence. Is that very optimistic spirit the one with which you should approach your future? As I said at the start, optimism certainly had its place, an important place in the building of our culture and society, in underwriting scientific speculation and investigation, and in driving forward to solve the practical problems of humanity through research, technology, and humanitarian work. There's undoubtedly some truth in that stick with your cause and you will triumph argument. But it is only a partial truth, and it is a sentimental one at that. On an occasion like this, as you celebrate what you have achieved, what you know and what you can do, it is important to hold yourself to the discipline of acknowledging what you don't know, what you may not be able to do, and the possibility that some achievements may remain forever beyond your grasp. There are very broad human reasons for doing this, not just scientifically sound ones. We habitually talk as if the great achievements of humankind were all the result of determination, resolve, and the single-minded pursuit of an idea. And that may be true, in part. But there is a countervailing point to be remembered, and that is that single-mindedness lies also at the base of our greatest man-made tragedies. And that is why skepticism and doubt must go with you when you leave here today into your futures. I want to end by recalling one of those great man-made tragedies that is the result of the single-minded pursuit of an idea. The late Jacob Bronowski, a mathematician, biologist, and historian of science, made a very famous television series called The Ascent of Man that was aired in 1973. And towards the conclusion of this show, he bent down to lift from a pond at the Auschwitz death camp a wet handful of the ashes of the Holocaust dead. And this is what he said about science and its relation to knowledge and error. Science is a very human form of knowledge. We're always at the brink of the known. We always feel forward for what is to be hoped. Every judgment in science stands on the edge of error and is personal. Science is a tribute to what we can know, although we are fallible. And that is the important point to remember, that knowledge and fallibility go so closely together. In the show, Bronowski quotes from Oliver Cromwell, who in addressing the Scottish Church made this remark: "I beseech you, think it possible that you may be mistaken." Would that Hitler had thought similarly. Sir Lawrence van der Post, a scientist, wrote not so long ago that human beings are perhaps never more frightening than when they are convinced beyond doubt that they are right. The university exists not only to foster the advancement of science, the finding of new knowledge and the creation of new art, music, literature, invention, unalloyed with the spirit of criticism, or rather self-criticism, any of these critical human activities may tumble into narcissism, and the consequences can be devastating. I conclude by reminding you again of the ceremony which declares the limitations of human knowledge. And in that spirit, I commend you all to your future, and I congratulate you on your achievements. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Dean, for an address of wise and inspirational considerations, and I'm sure that all the graduates here today will reflect on that message and the one that Dr. Purdy gave us as well about the challenges of the future and the opportunities that go along with that should be considered. I was also very grateful for Erica's remarks, exuding enthusiasm and confidence, which is an equal part of what all of you should face the future with. Thank you for that, Erica. Let me add my congratulations to all of you, the award winners, all the graduates, for your achievements today. Last year at this ceremony, I had to remark that the nurses this morning, or that morning last year, were much more enthusiastic and responsive at the ceremony than the engineers. This year, I believe the engineers recovered. And so I will be issuing a challenge to the nurses for next year. Congratulations to you on that. Just before we adjourn, and I realize that the ceremony has gone on for almost 3 hours now, I'd like to say a word of thanks on your behalf to those who make this ceremony run smoothly, Ms. Poole and her staff, but all the people behind the scenes. Thank you very much for your efforts. Realizing that refreshments are probably on everybody's mind, I would like to announce that a reception will be held for graduates and their guests in the Convention Center, Wentworth Rooms B and C, immediately following this ceremony. Flowers that have been delivered for graduates will be available at the coat check in the main lobby. I'd ask you to please remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. And I'd ask you to rise now and join with me in singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.